Mm-hmm. I'm Junor Francis. I want to say welcome to the History of LA Ska one-on-one sessions. This series celebrates Southern California rocksteady and vintage reggae scene and beyond through insightful conversations with legends and modern day players, including those behind the scenes. This is the 22nd, amazingly, this is the 22nd one-on-one session and the 7th in this new podcast and YouTube channel format. And I'm really and truly enjoying it. Thanks to our regular supporters and welcome first-time viewers and listeners. You're all welcome. Now, today's guest is the acclaimed drummer for veteran LA Ska and rocksteady band Ocean 11 and longtime member of Ben Harper and the Innocent Criminals, Oliver Charles. He's also a talented and gifted visual arts, video art artist. If I think art and artist, yeah, right, sir. You draw extremely well. Oliver, welcome. How is everything, sir?
Oh, hey, Junior, man. Thanks for having me. Things are well. Things are well. You know, just starting to get back to a little bit of work here, you know. Been locked in for a while.
Yeah, I don't want it to get lost in the conversation, your artwork, visual art. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Okay.
Hey, I saw you put up something the other day, man. The response was wild, crazy. Something like a piece that you drew. And I'm saying, well, you could easily go and become an artist and just leave drumming.
Drawing, you know, those drawings are hard.
Oh, yes. You know, it took Michelangelo 7 years to paint the Sistine Chapel. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, it's you know, the attention.
But hard in what sense?
Well, it's hard because it's time consuming. You know, it takes up a lot of my time to do a portrait.
But you were in the lockdown, so.
You know, 60, 70 to 80 hours. And, you know, when you're doing those for people, you don't want to charge too much money, you know, because it can kind of run away from you. You know what I mean? You don't want to overprice things, but then with the amount of hours that are included in doing one of those, then you break it down and you're actually working for about $5 an hour. You know, so I try to do as many as I can, but at the same time, I think that I'm going to start to focus on, you know, doing my own pieces and then maybe starting to do prints of those pieces.
Right. Do you have a piece that we can put on display?
Like in your place?
No, man, on display now to show people.
You know, I don't have actually anything right now because everything that I do, I sell.
Oh, okay.
So, you know, I don't actually have anything with me right here, but you know, I'm actually working on one that should be done in the next week, and you know.
Right. And what inspired you to become a visual? How do I say this? Visual artist?
Just you know, fine artist, visual artist, I guess. You know, I've just been drawing since I was, you know, since I could remember.
Oh, you know? It's not something you pick up during the pandemic?
No, it wasn't something that I picked up during the pandemic. As the story goes is that, you know, my sister is a violinist, or she was a professional violinist for quite some time, but she's 4 years older than me. And so when she was young and I was very little, like in the stroller, she played in a community orchestra down at Plummer Park in West Hollywood. And we would take the bus down there on Saturday mornings. And, you know, I was like maybe 3 years old, 4 years old. And I would like be tapping like on the table and stuff like that. And the conductor would be getting pissed off, like turning around, looking at me, you know? And so my mom, you know, gave me a pencil and some paper and just told me to draw. And I don't know, I guess it just, I took to it right away. So it's actually kind of the first thing that I really remember getting into was drawing, you know?
Wow. And you've been drawing ever since?
You know, I took about a 15-year hiatus, I guess. But yeah, you know, I drew all through high school. And you know, I was actually, after high school, I was planning to like go and double major at Cal Arts, you know, music major and, you know, an art major. But let's just say I didn't have the grades. to get into Cal Arts. And, you know, I actually met Ben Harper pretty much right out of high school. So
right. And the
I went
rest
to the
is
College
history.
of the Road.
Yes, we're going to talk about all of that here. Yeah. So how did it feel to finally perform live again this past weekend in Illinois? Now we talk about musical performance as a music artist. Now we move from visual to music, but you have so much talent.
you know, I was a little nerve-wracking. I'm going to be honest with you.
In what sense?
Well, you know, psychologically, it took a lot to kind of, you know, become comfortable with being home all the time. You know, like I had to make a switch. Everybody had to make the switch, you know, to become comfortable being home for a lot of the people in my field, like, you know, musicians or entertainment period, they were completely out of work. So, you know, we all switched over into this different type of mental state, being home. Now, when it's time to go back to work, you have to switch back. You know, and as a lifelong touring musician, that was always the thing. You did a little mini versions of this because you would go out for 5 or 6 weeks and you'd have to turn it on. Then you'd come home, you'd have to turn it off. And, you know, it's just a constant back and forth. And you're always kind of leaving someone. So you're leaving your family or you're leaving your band, you know, it's always back and forth. So, it's a long time, 17 months since the last show was in the end of February of 2020. And our first show was just this past weekend, you know, and I was nervous. I was nervous going up there and playing again because it's kind of an unnatural thing, you know, to go up in front of people and be emotional and have them watch you. It's kind of an unnatural thing to do, you know. So, but
after a song or two, I'm quite sure everything became, should I say, relatively normal, right?
Well, relatively normal. You know, we had, you know, the tragic passing of one of our band members, so we had to put a new band together, and you know, it was bittersweet. We were happy to play again, but it's a new band, you know? and it's very hard to navigate that emotionally, you know, being happy, but also, you know, being positive, you know, in a grieving process, grieving in a positive way, you know, and being able to move a step forward in that process. You know, it's all difficult, but you know that it all really kind of ends when you play the first note. You know, when you play the first note, then muscle memory kicks in. And, you know, all of the mental stuff goes away, and it just becomes like almost just a spiritual moment when you start playing. You know,
you mentioned the passing of a bandmate. Can you say his name?
Yes, his name was Juan Nelson, and you know, we played together for 27 years.
That's a lifetime, eh?
It is a lifetime, and I've only played this music with him as, you know, a drummer and bass player combination. Rhythm section is, you know, it's extremely personal. So, you know, it was difficult. He was a teacher to me, you know, a mentor, teacher, father figure, brother. You know, obviously, you know, we spent more time together than not together in the last 27 years touring together, you know. So it was difficult, but at the same time, it's what he would have wanted too, you know. And the music lives on through him. So, you know, we tried to do the best in respecting, you know, his contribution to Ben's music, you know, and to our music. And, you know, we were definitely up there playing for him as well.
Right. Wow. Now I want to talk about your father.
Okay.
And that's also emotional. Chili Charles, beloved and well-respected Trinidadian funk and jazz drummer and percussionist. So you have roots in the Eastern Caribbean.
In the West, yeah, the Western, well, is it East? Yeah, the Eastern Caribbean.
Eastern
yeah,
Caribbean.
The East, yeah. West Indies, Eastern Caribbean. Yeah, and don't forget, reggae drummer. Reggae and soca drummer as well.
Wow, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for filling. You're right. Oh yeah, he worked with Joe Higgs and Multiply the Reggae.
Yeah.
Right.
So my
let's talk about
memories.
him. Then we talk about how he inspired you. But let's talk about your father.
Yeah. So obviously I followed in my father's footsteps.
Yes, sir.
Because he was the coolest guy I knew growing up.
Wow.
So but he was born and raised. He was born and raised in Trinidad and Tobago, and he was a genius, really smart man, and he moved from Trinidad and Tobago in the late 60s and moved to New York and studied engineering. He wanted to be an engineer.
Not a drummer.
While he was in New York, he hooked up with the other West Indian people, whether it's, Trinidadians, Jamaicans, Puerto Ricans, Cubans, and, started playing, my grandfather played percussion and drums, and so it was something that came naturally to my dad. And
right.
He got bit by that bug while he was in his early years in New York. And I'm not sure if he actually graduated from school. I think he decided to become a full-time musician at that point. Now, at that point, he met my mother. And I believe in 1970, they moved out to Los Angeles. Then they had my sister in 71. And then my mom, my sister, and my dad moved to England, to Oxfordshire. Richard Branson had started Virgin Records. And so my dad was like one of the house drummers, at the Manor, which was like the recording studio, which was an actual manor out in Oxfordshire, and they all lived there. And, I'm not going to really get into the stories of that time period because I don't think I can. But let's just to say it was probably a really exciting time for him. And, my family moved back to Los Angeles and my dad was back and forth to England, I believe. And then, then I came along in 1975 and, my earliest memories were of him playing, whether it was like a soca gig or calypso gig or a reggae gig. By the late 70s, early 80s, I strictly remember only seeing my dad playing reggae. And he was playing with a singer by the name of Jack Miller. And he had the Reggae All-Stars with Fully Fullwood, Tony Chin, Josh Hughes. And,
top of the line.
Yeah, those were the guys that I watched growing up playing,
Yes.
And so lots of reggae in my house growing up. Lots of reggae in my house, When I was a kid, I loved Ika Mouse. I loved Ika Mouse. I think all kids love Ika Mouse. It's just the way he sings, But I remember I remember going to see Yellow Man. My dad took me to see Yellow Man, and it was like Sly and Robbie's Taxi. And, they took me to see Peter Tosh, the Greek, in 1983.
So you were still a youngster.
Yeah, I was young.
85 would be 10, so 83 and 8.
Yeah. I actually saw Peter Tosh was the day I learned how to swim. I remember that. I learned how to swim, and then I ran in the house, and I was excited. Look, I learned how to swim. And my dad was like, get dressed. I want to see Peter Tosh. And I was like, who? Peter Tosh. All right. Yeah. And I remember that concert. And actually, that concert's, live film. Live at the Greek, yeah. I was at that concert, you know. Yeah.
Yes, sir. And in addition, your father also played with the godfather of reggae, Joe
Yes.
Higgs. Mm-hmm.
My dad did play with Joe Higgs, and I actually just found a bunch of the tapes, like the Super 8 tapes my dad filmed all the time, like on tour, and like filmed a bunch of the shows. So now I have a bunch of shows of him playing with Joe Higgs and stuff, like up the, you know, the Pacific coast and going up north and stuff like that. And
what are you gonna do with them, sir? How can, I guess, we see them?
I'm gonna digitize them.
Huh?
I'm gonna digitize them and then we'll talk.
Oh, yeah. All right.
Make sure that you see them.
Nice.
Absolutely.
So we mentioned your dad from Trinidad, made stops in New York and California and even England. He traveled extensively playing music. How about you? Have you had the opportunity to trace your roots back to Trinidad?
You know, we used to go to Trinidad every year for Carnival. And I still have cousins and my aunt and stuff for living in Trinidad.
Yeah, I bet.
And you know, some of my Trinidadian family's living in Atlanta now.
Mm-hmm.
Some are in the UK, and I even have an uncle that was born and raised actually in Germany, in Berlin.
Wow. And
so I actually get to see him every couple of years because we tour quite extensively in Europe, you know. So I get to see him a lot. But yeah, I grew up. I think the first time I went to Trinidad was when I was 7, and then we would go through my teenage years. We went every year.
Nice.
It was really nice. Yeah.
Yeah, you're extremely fortunate in that sense.
Oh yeah.
You're right. So you're not disconnected. Well, how about now? No connection to Trinidad now.
Well, I have family. I haven't been back down there though since I was in high school. So we're talking, you know, 28, 29 years. It's been a long time.
Right. Yeah.
But, we're planning.
A trip is overdue.
A trip is overdue, and you know, I have we'll get to that later. We'll talk about.
Yes, sir. I fully agree. But let's talk about your son now. So you have a child. Is it a son or a daughter? I want to include that. A son. Mm-hmm.
You know.
So that would be 4th generation drummer. Your grandfather. Yeah.
We'll see.
And all professional. You know, I mean, not just people who just play for playing's sake. Play at the highest level.
Well, his mother is also a professional musician, my wife, you know, so she works more than I do.
You mean practicing?
No, she teaches, she does shows, she does gigs, she plays with the band. She plays with a couple of different bands. She works a lot, yeah. Her name is Rebecca Schlopik Charles. Yeah. And, you know, I have my studio and she has her studio. Same house. That we share both.
Nice. And your son is relatively newly born.
Yeah, he's 9 months. He's 9 months old.
9 months. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wonderful, man.
And
his name?
His name is Winston Henry Francis Charles.
Winston Henry Francis Charles. 4 names.
4 names.
Yes.
You know, true West Indian.
Yes, it is, sir. So yes. So let me ask you about your drummer now. Please share your musical inspirations as a youth. Were there any other drummer that you particularly idolized while growing up? And in addition to your father, of course, he's your biggest inspiration.
Oh, I got a few. And I'll name all of them. All right. In no particular order.
That's good.
We have Carlton Barrett, of course, the great Carlton Barrett. Of, you know, Bob Marley and the Wailers, the Upsetters. We have the great Lloyd Knibb, right? We have Manu Katché, right? We have Stuart Copeland, of course, of the Police. Manu Katché played with Peter Gabriel.
Thanks for the clarity, because I wouldn't know those people.
Yeah. We have Mitch Mitchell, right, who played with Jimi Hendrix Experience. Zigaboo Modaliste, who plays with the Meters. You know, the Funky Meters.
Yes.
Clyde Stubblefield, of course. You know, the funky drummer, James Brown's drummer. That's just a few. There are more.
So Sly didn't make the cut. Dunbar didn't make the cut.
Of course, Sly makes it into the. I bite from Sly all the time. I'm not. Those were just to name a few. I can keep going. You know, Philip Fisher. You know, Fish from Fishbone. One of my all-time favorite drummers. All time. One of my favorite drummers. You know, we have Tim Herb Alexander, Primus. We have Jay Lane, who's also Primus. Man, I can keep going down the list.
Yes, sir. Yes,
we'll be here all night.
Nice.
Not to mention all of my contemporaries.
All right.
Guys that are, you know, out there doing it right now. That
yes, sir. And when did you realize you personally want to become a professional drummer?
12 years old.
At
12 years old, I got to junior high school, 7th grade. My buddies and I started a punk band, right? And we weren't really any good, but that's when I knew that's what I wanted to do. Was 12 years old, 7th grade.
So you had access to drums that you could practice at home?
Yeah, my dad gave me a 1960s Green Sparkle Rogers drum set.
At what age?
When I was 5. But I still have it.
Yes, man. Pass it on to your son. Yes.
Yeah.
So you were practicing up to...
No. Well, here's the thing is that I took music lessons and I studied piano. And so I started studying piano from the age of 7. And I studied with the same teacher until I was 19. So classical piano was actually my first instrument, with drums being my second instrument. And I didn't really start playing drums until I got to junior high school. And in high school, you know, is when I really kind of focused on playing drums.
Was that to fulfill your father's dream or your dream, or both?
I would say probably both. I know it wasn't my mother's dream. She was married to a drummer. I don't think she wanted to have 2 drummers in the same house, but
like it or not, man.
Like it or not, my mom was super supportive. She drove me to band practice. She drove me to
concert. She was. You couldn't ask for more.
My dad liked it. My mom was the one who drove me everywhere. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Yes, sir. So now to Ocean 11. How was Ocean 11 formed, and what role you played in the formation?
So Ocean 11 started when I was actually in high school. And, you know, I was in a 3-piece punk band based out of Eagle Rock with a bass player named Joey DeRusha and a guitar player named Mike Hanna. And Joey DeRusha's older brother, Joey DeRusha and Dave DeRusha lived on a street called Edgecliff, right, in Silver Lake. And right a couple houses down was a guitar player named Ray Thomas. Now, Ray Thomas had a band called Ye Olde English, right? And Ye Olde English was like, they did Prince Buster covers, you know, like Big Five stuff. You know what I'm saying? So it was kind of like rocksteady reggae, totally explicit, you know. And a couple of those members, well, actually, Joey DeRusha had joined Ye Olde English in their last couple of shows before they broke up. Now, when Ye Olde English broke up, members Ray Thomas and Dave Leidner, who was organ player for Ye Olde English, decided they were going to start another band with Joey DeRusha on bass, Jordan Levine on second guitar, or other lead guitar and second guitar, you know, rhythm and lead. Dave Leidner would actually, no, Jesse Cordoza was the first drummer, and I was the keyboard player, in addition to an organ player. And then we had Persephone Leard, And then also we had, well, he came later on actually, but that was kind of the starting lineup was Ray Thomas, Jordan Levine, David Leidner. Man, it's so long ago. Joey DeRusha, David Leidner, Ray Thomas, Jordan Levine, myself, Jesse Cordoza, Persephone Leard, David DeRusha was the original lineup.
Right. So I wasn't counting, about 7 or 8.
7 or 8, yeah.
7 or 8. And on or about when, what time period, what year?
We started in the beginning of, I say we started in the end of 92, actually.
Oh, that's early.
Yeah, we started in the end of 92, and we really started to do most of our heyday was 93, 94, I would say.
Why those were the heydays?
Well, because I left in the middle of 94 and started touring with Ben Harper. And so I wasn't around much.
Right.
And so, you know, as opposed to like trying to get gigs every weekend or at least monthly, we weren't able to do that so much. And they could have gotten another drummer. I don't know why they waited around for me, but they did.
You weren't that easily replaceable because it was very difficult finding ska rocksteady drummer during that time. Ska is not easy to play.
Yeah, well, at the time too, you know, there wasn't a lot of traditional ska bands in the Los Angeles or the Southern California scene. You know, which I don't know if you want to talk about that. I don't want to, like, if you have segments, I don't want to break things up. But
no, man, you can go wherever you want to go with it.
You know, when I got into the scene, which was in 92, I primarily saw what was more upbeat bands, you know, or kind of hybrids between upbeat and like fast traditional ska, you know. Great bands, you know, like I used to see the Specs and like the Scandals and Let's Go Bowling and all of those are the Skeletones, you know, these are all bands that, you know, I remember seeing when I first got into the scene, Skank and Pickle, right? Which were kind of these more upbeat, but yet like the Scandals were like a fast traditional ska. And Let's Go Bowling had traditional ska stuff, but like they also had, you know, punk kind of upbeat hybrid stuff, which was really kind of amazing because I idolized Fishbone, and then all of a sudden this whole scene opens up to me, and you know, here's all these bands that are on that level of like musicality as those guys, you know. And so the only traditional bands that I really remember that were around were Jump with Joey, Hepcat, and the Israelites. You know, those were like the traditional bands that I remember when I got into the scene. Like specifically, there were probably other bands, but I don't remember them. You know, I remember those bands specifically when I first got in. Then, so when we started, we were more of a rock steady band. We didn't really do much ska at all, to be honest.
Right.
And after our first couple of shows, our drummer had left, and I moved from the keyboard seat to the drummer seat. And it wasn't until maybe, you know, 6 or 7 months later that we started to kind of push more of the ska stuff into the set, you know.
Right. Know that they have someone who can play ska. I mean,
yeah,
the way it should be played. Interesting. So how did you learn ska drumming? Just pick it up at home? Because it's so difficult to learn, from what I've heard, being a non-musician or novice.
You know, my first ska, traditional ska tempo beat that I learned how to play was, and it's not necessarily a traditional ska song, but it's got flavors of it, is My Collie by The Selector. The Selector's version of that.
I wouldn't. I just know 1 or 2 songs by them.
It was like the first beat that I kind of built, you know, all of my beats off of. You know, once I went from that, And I remember going to see the Scotalites at the House of Blues, and the Specs and Hepcat opened up. And there was another band, but I can't remember who they were. It might have been the Scandals. And I bet you John Pannell would know if you asked him, because he was probably there. And I remember seeing Hepcat and going, that right there, this is the band that I want to go see whenever they're playing. I knew the Scatolites came around every once in a while, but these guys were an LA band, and I wanted to go see them all the time. And that band made me fall in love with traditional ska.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was coming from Fishbone into two-tone,
mm-hmm.
into the Los Angeles scene or the Southern California scene, which was primarily upbeat. Hepcat was the band that put the brakes on all of that. And I was like, I want to do trad ska. And so then I started listening to the Scotalites almost exclusively. Scotalites, and then when the first Hepcat record came out, I listened to that and the Scotalites exclusively. And then Jump with Joey when I was able to get my hands on their stuff, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody had El Pussycat, but nobody had anything else. And when I finally got Generations United, whew, heavy rotation.
Yes,
heavy
sir.
rotation.
And yeah, so the addiction began right there. So in addition to stellar musicianship and beautiful vocals, Ocean 11 did an amazing job of truly capturing the distinct vintage Jamaican 60s sound. Tell us how the process came about. Is that what you're explaining now, that it came about after watching the Scatolites and decided we want to go trad? Trad mean tradition.
Yeah, well, we were already doing kind of like rocksteady and our, you know, a kind of reggae in between rocksteady and reggae. And then we started to kind of push up the tempos on some of the things. We were primarily doing other people's songs. Actually, in the beginning, though, we did have maybe half originals, half covers. But we were more of a tribute band when we started. You know, we weren't,
which is really, always good.
Yeah, we weren't really. I don't know if we were trying to be our own thing in the beginning necessarily. We were more of a tribute band, and we've always kind of been more of a tribute band because we just love the music so much. So we're just like, you know what? For the next show, let's just learn 20 new songs. You know, and we always just kind of did that. We didn't spend a lot of time. I mean, we spent a lot of time rehearsing, but not necessarily writing, which is ironic because over the last 20 years, there's probably like 30 original Ocean 11 songs sitting somewhere that are being, you know, that are ready to be finished at some point. You know, we've
finished writing or recording.
We always record originals. We haven't put anything out. You know, we're recording original stuff right now. We have been for years. The thing about Ocean 11 is that we all play other things. You know, within Ocean 11, there's another band called Bingewood, which is like a psychedelic punk rock band, you know, with the same members, with a few of the same members. And that's headed by Jordan Levine, one of the lead guitar players. And so we spent a lot of time focusing on those recordings too. There's just always something else going on. Then we did something called Dub Marine, a play on submarine. And we put out like a full-length record of just really out music, like dub, but not necessarily reggae, just kind of really weird stuff, you know? And that's kind of where our heart lies. And I'm kind of coming back to your question about how we got into like more of the authentic sound of everything was we just would go in and we had recording capabilities because we started in Dave Leitner's garage, the original organ player, and he had a recording studio. He had his home recording studio in there, and that's where we recorded all of the Ocean 11 stuff, was in his garage. And so just by trying different things and different miking techniques, and, you know, the first generation of Pro Tools and running Simpty Stripe and like slaving digital to tape, you know, we were working with all of that stuff. And I'm not going to tell you what those techniques were because we still use them. And that's kind of like,
and I would know. So that's all right. So.
Yeah. Our little thing, but
we're on the same page.
We were more recording nerds, you know, as opposed to trying to get gigs and trying to go out and like tour, let's say.
Right.
We were more interested in the process of recording
Mm-hmm.
and like just writing weird songs and doing weird things musically. And that's kind of really the unseen part of Ocean 11 is, you know, the whole rhythm section, we just do weird music. And maybe nobody hears it, but we are just kind of, we like to record for recording's sake. You know what I mean?
Right.
That makes
so
it.
What are the chances of Ocean 11 reuniting?
Oh, I would say pretty good because we've never actually really broken up.
Oh, right. Which is exactly why I brought that up.
Yeah, we've never broken up. And the thing is, like, you know, I just heard some tracks that we recorded a couple of years ago, you know, you know, as you get older, you know, life takes over and, you know, responsibilities, and people have jobs, you know, that take us away from that. And we've somehow managed to stay in touch, and we still managed to keep recording stuff, you know? So the nucleus of the band is still together. As a matter of fact, you know, on paper, you know, Joey DeRusha, myself, Ray Thomas, Jordan Levine, Joshua Levy, who came in the mid 90s as our second keyboard player, you know, we're all still kind of a musical recording entity. You know, we still have a text thread. You know what I mean? We are still making music in a very slow process, but we're still making music. Yeah.
Right.
So, and that's the whole root. That is the rhythm section of Ocean 11 right there. And we still are in touch with, you know, the different other members that have joined the band over the years. You know, we're still in contact with the different horn players and, you know, different keyboard players and you know, of course, you know, Persephone and Malik and, you know, some of the other vocalists that we've worked with, you know. I mean, I'm still friends with all of them, you know, with Desiree and Tiffany. And, you know, and maybe one day we'll all get the original, you know, get the trio, Desiree, Persephone, and what am I doing here? I'm just blanking on it. Tiffany. I'm sorry, Tiffany. Persephone, Desiree, and Tiffany together, which was like our three female lead combination that we had for like what I'd say was maybe our best incarnation of the group. You know, if you listen to the record, that's the three of them singing on Rules of Life.
The one I play a lot is Solid as a Rock.
Solid as a Rock, yeah.
I touch a gospel.
Yeah, you know, that's Desiree, Persephone, and Chris Murray singing on that. Chris Murray is the
my favorite
male lead on
powerful song. But I you know, I was asking about reunion for my own interest. I'd love to see that.
Well, we got to reunite so you could introduce us.
Yes, sir.
There is no one better.
I think I'm not sure if I did the Justin Hines show, but I have introduced the band somewhere along the line. Maybe
you introduced us, and I'll tell you where. You introduced us at the Rico Rodriguez show.
Yes, sir. Rico show, right?
And man, that was a powerful introduction.
Well, I can't pat myself on the back. I was just glad to be in the house and to be around you guys and Rico.
I'll pat you on the back. And then I had the privilege of playing with the Lions. I get to play with them every once in a while, and you know.
Yes.
Introductions for them.
Right. So, which band do you remember performing with the most, and how you, I guess, enjoyed the performance? During the early stage, not Ben Harper, prior to the band.
Oh, you mean like that I actually performed
during the early days of your career?
Well, I mean, Ocean 11, of course, is like, you know, that was, you know, the first band really that we started to do like club shows. You know, that was my, you know, that wasn't my introduction into live shows playing, but it was, you know, it was the first time playing at the Anti Club or playing at the Hong Kong Cafe. playing at the Alligator Lounge. What was the club on Hollywood and Ivar? I think it was called the Ivar, maybe. There was like an upstairs club. And, man, we had a lot of fun. The El Sereno Lodge, it was a lot of fun back in those days. And it was, being 17 years old and getting out and getting to play in these clubs was pretty fantastic.
Yeah, you're not kidding there. That really gave you a leg up.
Yeah.
So during the early days, was it difficult finding someone to produce songs for Ocean 11? Because you said you have a bunch of songs in the can. I want to revisit that.
Well, produce? No, because we produced everything ourselves. You
didn't, because there were a couple of LA producers. You didn't try to seat them up because.
No, I mean, we were, as I said, we were all recording nerds. So we just, we liked the process of trying different mic techniques and putting things together. I mean, if I would say anything primarily within Ocean 11, that Ray Thomas and David Leidner were the two engineers that really kind of produced us. Those two were really more of the leading forces in the production of those recordings that we did. But as there was no outside producers, and we didn't feel like there was really any need to seek out an outside producer because, we weren't. It's kind of hard to describe. We were a band, but at the same time, we were like a recording entity. Like we had ideas of recording and producing other people at a point, and that's why we moved in together in Silver Lake, and we had this big 3,500 square foot space that we lived in and was a recording studio. And I remember some ska bands coming in. I think the Steady Ups came in and recorded with us. A couple of bands, I think the Dynamics came in and recorded with us. And some bands that weren't ska bands came in and recorded with us, a couple of Cuban bands. And, there was bands always recording, and there was us always recording, and that was kind of more of the angle that we wanted to be on that side of it more so than on, getting in a van and going out and touring and playing a bunch of shows in a row. That wasn't really kind of ever where, the band wanted to go instinctually,
right.
It wanted to be more of a production company as opposed to a band. And the band was kind of like the calling card for, the sounds that we could get. I think we even did one thing back in Dave's garage was, I remember Hepcap coming by and doing a recording at one point, and, we were just trying to be those guys that had that kind of 60s sound.
Yes, sir. And what a sound to have. Before we get into Ben Harper, that's where we are now, I want to remind our viewers and listeners that I'm in conversation with acclaimed drummer for LA Ska and rocksteady band Ocean 11 and longtime member of Ben Harper and the Innocent Criminal. And what the name, sir? Innocent Criminal. Oliver Charles is also a talented visual artist. You do it all.
I try.
Right? You passed that stage long time. And my turn to pat you on the back. When I saw you put up that piece of artwork on social media, I was really blown away. I said, no, this man could not have attained that level of excellence during the pandemic.
I'm somewhat obsessive. So it comes naturally.
Not during the pandemic. He had to have been drawing way before that.
If you could stare at 1 square inch of paper for 6 hours, then
I don't have it.
It'll come easier to you.
No, I couldn't do it.
I'm obsessive.
So let's move into how you met Ben Harper and subsequently joined the Innocent Criminals, which is the name of his musicians, right?
Yes.
Yeah. The meeting.
So while playing with Ocean 11, I played with another group that was more of like a funk acid jazz type of outfit that had kind of a revolving door of different musicians. And the name of this band was called Groovin' High, right? And Groovin' High played and ran a weekly show at the Gaslight, which was on Cosmos, just below, which it later on became the Opium Den. But before it was the Opium Den, it was called Cosmos. And it was split into 2 rooms, and it had a really small stage. And we would play there every Tuesday night. And, you know, it was a different format. It was like, you know, you'd have a couple of different DJs. Mostly the DJ that I remember the most spinning every Tuesday night was Cut Chemist. I don't know if you know Cut Chemist from Jurassic 5, and you know, he is a fantastic DJ, right? He's more of a musician than a DJ. He's insane. And he would spin records, and then he'd let a record play, and then we would all hop on the instruments, start playing along with that record. He would pull the record out, and then we would just kind of go on a musical journey from there. And actually, one of the Dave DeRusha, who was the sax player in Ocean 11, was also in this band.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, Octavio Camacho was the band leader. He's another sax player, he's an LA legend. You know, they ran this Tuesday night, you know, and I played with them, you know, for at least about 6 or 7 months every Tuesday night. And, which was tough, you know, because
in what sense, sir?
Well, because I was still for some of that, I was still in high school.
Oh,
so I would be getting home at like 2:30 in the morning or 3:00 in the morning, and then getting up for school at 6. And you know, and I don't want to get anybody in trouble, but I was definitely not old enough to be in the club.
Right.
So, and you know, believe it or not, my mom dropped me off a few of those nights, and the bouncer would be like, "Don't worry, Mrs. Charles."
They even got to know that.
And you know, not to get anybody in trouble with, you know, the authorities there, but you know, one of these, you know, it was very common. It was like a 3-set night. The band would play 2 sets, and there would be a third band that would be usually showcasing, you know. And so this particular night, it was Macy Gray, right? She was performing, and she was looking for management, and she invited a bunch of managers down, different managers, to come see her play. And so we were playing before her and after her. And so one of these managers came in early, and his name was JP Plunier, and he was Ben Harper's manager. And he brought in a young Ben Harper with him.
Wow.
Right? And they happened to catch Groovin' High's set, which was the band that I was playing with. And, you know, they dug it. They dug me, you know, and we talked afterwards and stuff. And I didn't really think anything was going to come of it. But then a couple of weeks later, or actually the very following week, they came back to see me again. And, you know, I hung out with them again, except I was feeling a little under the weather that second week, and didn't really get to talk with them too much. 2 weeks after that, I was working at a pizza place in Silver Lake, and my mom came in, and she was like, "This guy keeps calling. He's called like 3 times already today. And he wants to talk to you about a potential gig." And I was like, "Oh, I'll call him when I get home." And then I kind of put it together. I was like, "Oh, those were those guys that came by and saw me play. Okay." And I got off at 11 o'clock at night, and when I got home, and I called up this guy, and it was Ben Harper, and he was like, "Hey, you know, we're doing auditions tomorrow. You know, and we got a few guys coming down, but it's like imperative that you come down to this audition.
Wow.
We want to see, you know, I want to see what, you know, what you can do and stuff, and just come down." And I was like, "Well, I have school." You know, at this point, I was going to Glendale Community College, and you know, he's like, "Well, as I said, come down in the morning." And so I talked to my mom, and I talked to my dad, and I was like, "Look, I'm going to go try to do this thing." And my dad gave me a ride down there, and I was the first guy to audition. It was about 10 in the morning down on the west side, West LA, and at a rehearsal studio. And then, you know, I specifically remember my dad getting up in the middle of the first song that I was playing with him, and he just left.
He was disappointed?
No, he just got up and left. I had no idea where he went. And
maybe to give you space.
Maybe to give me space, you know.
Yeah.
And later on, he told me that he knew at that point
that you were hired.
That I was hired. And so he just got up and left me in West Hollywood, drove back to Los Feliz. You know what I'm saying? And so I finished the audition around 11 o'clock, and they said, "Can you stick around?" And so I stuck around, and then I watched 4 guys come in. You know, I'd go up against the door and listen while they were auditioning and stuff, one at a time. And about, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, they invited me back in after the last guy left. And, they sat me down on the little stage, and they sat on the couch, and they looked at me, and they were just like, "Well, do you have any like drum road cases, to tour, with your drums so they don't get messed up?" And I was like, "No, but I'll buy some." "Do you have a passport?" And I was like, "No, but I'll get one." And he said, "Do you have to go to work today?" And I said, "Yes, I have work in Silver Lake in an hour." And I'm on the west side of town. I'm starting to sweat a little bit because I was nervous that I was going to be late for work and stuff. And Ben just looked at me and he said, "Go out to the payphone and call your job and tell them that you're not going to come in today or ever." And I was just like, I'm not going to say what I said. I don't know if I can cuss on this or not, but I was like, holy crap,
Yeah.
And I called up my boss, and my boss was super happy for me, and I actually had 2 bosses because I also worked at a video store next door to the pizza place on different days. I had 2 jobs. And the ironic thing about that job is I got that job, and the guy that used to have that job was Beck. Beck used to work at that video store. So when I called them and told them that I was leaving, they were like, "What the hell's going on with all our guys, quitting and going on tour and stuff like that?" I thought it was pretty funny. But, I just ended up staying with them that night at the rehearsal, and we rehearsed until like midnight. And I rehearsed for the next 4 days. And on that 5th day, which was September 4th, 1994, we flew up to Portland, and I did my first show with Ben, and that was 27 years ago, this coming September 24th.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And what has the experience been like working with Ben, sir?
Oh, man. I grew up with Ben,
Oh, there you go. Mm-hmm.
I was 19 when we started playing together. He was 24 when we started playing. Leon and Juan were in their 30s, early 30s, maybe. We were all really young. And so, I grew up and like became a man out there, on the road. And I had to learn very quickly, how to take care of myself.
Mm-hmm.
Parents aren't there, not living at home anymore. You're out there taking care of yourself. And, those early days of touring were, what a lot of bands do. You get in a van, you sleep on top of your gear, you take turns driving, and you drive, 400 or 500 miles a day, and you play, you play.
Mm-hmm.
It's grueling. It's tough.
You're not kidding.
I wouldn't trade it for anything. And, we you see it now with us, that camaraderie, because that's where we started together.
Right. So,
when we're together, we're like our own little club, like kind of, we speak our own language, we have our own inside jokes. Everything is just, it's hard to explain unless you've been there, but we still talk almost every day. I mean, I talk to Ben every day, I talk to him almost every single day,
Wow.
which is insane. Mm-hmm. But, now that we're getting back to work, You know, it requires that kind of communication right now. But you know.
So when Ben made his first record, because he's from Claremont, I used still I'm at KSPC, and back then I had a truckload of traditional, for lack of a better definition, and I don't like the word traditional, but ska, rocksteady, and reggae that I grew up listening to. So along the way, I would incorporate stuff like steel pulse, and aswad, which is as far that I would go from reggae.
Yeah.
And so when the record came out, I think everyone in Claremont started calling me to play the song. I didn't. I made a catastrophic mistake, but it was tough for me to put aside Ben and not play Prince Buster, the Wailers. That was difficult. So I'm looking for redemption. You asked for forgiveness, but they would call every week requesting, and I wouldn't play it. I wouldn't play it, especially if you call more than once, and I recognize your voice. That means you're challenging me.
Well, here's the funny thing.
Everyone was calling, but you know, I mean, I before long, you know, Ben Harper is up here, you know.
Well, I bet you that he probably listened to your show, because when I first met Ben,
well, everybody was tuning in at that time to local radio station.
You know, that's all we listened to was early Wailers, right? I listened to, you know, a lot of the rocksteady and the early reggae stuff, and that's stuff that we would listen to in the van. You know, it's no secret that Ben Harper is like, you know, a reggae fanatic. You know, it's evident even in his non-reggae stuff that you could hear that influence. You know.
Yes, sir. So I'm seeking redemption.
Yes.
A lot of bands I wasn't playing back then. No, I'm playing them more now. But Ben Harper, I mean, lots of requests was like weekly. So I asked him for forgiveness.
I will absolutely. I will tell him. I'm sure.
Yes, sir. We're moving along. So let's talk a little bit about your working experience with Joey Altrude. I know you work with that legendary musician, well respected, well established. At some point or another in your career, was it between Ben Harper or before Ben Harper? I'm not sure, but his name popped up that you did work with him, Joey Altrude, that upright bass player that is so well loved in Los Angeles.
Here's the funny thing about Joey Altrude. I've been pulling on Joey Altrude's, you know, his coattails since I was 16, 17 years old, you know, like I was a huge fan of his. And so, you know, when Ocean 11 got to open up for Jump with Joey, you know, I would, of course, just ask him 1,000 questions. And you know, I remember taking my dad to see Jump with Joey. And, you know, my dad knew, you know, that name, the Jumpin' with Joey record, you know, and knew where he got it from, you know, and Joey was impressed with that. The funny thing about Joey Altrude is Joey Altrude and Ben Harper used to like get coffee every morning, you know, before I started even playing with Ben.
Oh, they knew each other?
Oh yeah. They just would, they would get up and go to a place called Eleanor's, I think it was. And they would have, you know, coffee and tea, you know, all the time. So when I brought up Joey Altrude to Ben, he was like, oh, yeah, I know Joey, you know, and of course Joey knows everybody because he's just,
Joey, and he knows everyone.
Yeah, Altrude.
I believe it.
You know, I started to play with him though, and started to work with him after I'd already started playing with Ben. But you know, I would come back from tour and then do shows with Ocean 11. You know what I mean? And it wasn't until maybe the late 90s is when I started to work with Joey Altrude and his, you know, the Crucial Rhythms that he had. You know, and we would play. I forgot the name of the place. It was downtown. It had like a, you know, I can't remember what it was called. It was like a small little bar type of club downtown. And, you know, I started to do some gigs with him there and I was really excited to work with him at that time. You know, we've just kind of kept in touch and you know, we've worked together on the, you know, the Brazilian stuff a little bit, and there's some other stuff.
Right. Yeah, he's a big fan of Brazilian music.
Oh yeah, and you know, we did something. We did, you know, the first Astoria show, you know, because he's up in Astoria, up in Oregon. And so I drove up there and we did a show and stuff. And I stayed with him for a few days. And man, I love Joey. Joey's great. You know,
you seem to have wonderful relationship with just about everything. Everyone. I mean, you seem to have no enemy.
I'm sure some would disagree, but yeah.
But wow, those few that would disagree, perhaps so few you could fit them in a Volkswagen trunk and still have space for. That's where they keep the engine.
Debatable, but yeah.
So fill us in another group, the super group, the Mad Geezers. Did I pronounce that?
Mad Geezers, yeah.
Tell us about them. They're from right here in LA, right?
They're from LA, you know, Dan Ubik of Lions fame, you know, the Lions.
Yeah, man, top shelf musician.
Yeah, and Dave Wilder.
And another top shelf.
One of my favorite bass players, period. Just in all genres, one of my favorite guys. You know, they started this thing. And, you know, Dan's got a lot of different things that he does, you know. He does a lot of different groups. And I mean, it's really the only way that you could stay working in Los Angeles. You got a lot of irons in the fire. And this was something that he wanted to do. And, you know, he put this combination of musicians together. And, you know, we don't play out live, which I wish we could do. And I think we were talking about doing more until the pandemic kind of came up on us. But I'm sure that'll be something that happens when things start to get back to normal, or whatever the new normal is. But I'm sure that the Mad Geezers will start to do some shows. I know that we're in the process of working on some newer stuff. Some newer material is being recorded right now, or was recorded last year and the year before, but it'll probably come out maybe this next year in 2022. Right. No, I love working with Dan, and
pretty cool guy.
Oh, he's great.
Yes, man.
Great. Yeah, Dan is fantastic. That's a producer. You want to talk about producer? Dan is a producer. You know, along with being a kick-ass musician. Yeah.
Well, you know, there are some fun questions, but before I turn it over to our producer, Eric Kohler, I wanted to ask about some of your biggest professional accomplishments. Perhaps there are so many that they could sink the Queen Mary.
I don't know about that. You know, my biggest professional accomplishment is being able to get out there and play music for a living, you know, and to be able to feed myself playing music. It's a hard thing to do. And a lot of people, a lot of greater musicians, you know, I know a lot of great musicians that, you know, have to supplement their income. And I just feel really fortunate that I've been able to, you know, make a living playing music. That is something that I'm proud of. And, you know, it's something that could be gone tomorrow. Actually, it was gone for the whole last 17 months. You know, there are things within touring, you know, there's people I've gotten to play with, you know, that I've really enjoyed, you know, there's a lot to mention. You know, a couple of big moments is, you know, I'm a huge Peter Gabriel fan. So getting to be, you know, direct support, like opening up for Peter Gabriel in front of, you know, 100,000 people at Rockery Rio was definitely a highlight. Getting to seeing Hey Jude, you know, the backgrounds on Hey Jude with Paul McCartney at, you know, the Bridge School benefit in 2004 was definitely a highlight. Getting to open up for the Police was definitely a highlight. You know, these are things that, you know, that definitely brings tears to my eyes, you know, to think about, because I'm just super fortunate and blessed that I got to do those things. You know, there's, you know, every time that I get to play music, I feel extremely blessed. And the fact that I still enjoy doing it is something that I'm extremely grateful for, you know?
Yes, sir. Wonderful. Well, you know, we have a few fun questions, and so I'm going to turn it over now to our producer, Eric Kohler.
Hello, Oliver.
Hello, Eric.
Good to see you. Thanks again
Great to see you.
For this, Junior. Thank you.
You know, he's the one who introduced me to the band.
Oh,
Eric.
wow.
Yeah, you were playing somewhere on the east side. That was before the Justin Hines show. On the west side, Eric took me to the concert, and then so we got to talking. He said, "Oh, you're from Jamaica?" He said, I'm your neighbor from Trinidad, my dad."
It was probably one of the Steady Beat shows.
Oh gosh, I can't remember.
Probably. Maybe at the Alligator Lounge if it was on the west side.
Yeah. You know what? Yeah, could be.
No, I knew Alligator Lounge back then, but it wasn't that side.
Similar. But then you mentioned the Justin Hines, and just for a visual.
Yeah.
I know off camera we were briefly talking about this earlier, but Justin Hines, we determined this was 98. Oh, yeah, 98. What a show this was. This was the first time I had a chance to work with a Jamaican legend. Lewis and Steady Beat was part of this, and Junior, obviously you were. But yeah, what a show. But Oliver, I'm really enjoying, and I'm sure, hopefully I've told you this over the years, but so proud of you and what you've accomplished over the years. And you slay it on the road, and to see you have a beautiful family. Really happy for you, and
thank you.
And really appreciative for all that you do for the scene and the relationships that you keep. So we have some random and quite a few, a little more than normal, which is why I'm coming in a little earlier tonight.
Oh wow!
Yes, some of these are from fans, some of these are from this fan.
Okay.
And in no particular order.
That's such honesty.
Yeah, so you'll have to guess maybe okay, which ones are mine. But a couple on Ben Harper. How difficult is it, or is it difficult, you balancing within one set various genres, reggae, blues, soul, folk, rock? Obviously you by nature and probably what you grew up with, and what you played prior to Ben, but I mean, in front of such massive audiences, the first time you had to do something like that, describe that feeling and touch on that a little bit.
We talk about this. We talk about this a lot within, Ben's group. We've always felt that it was kind of, Ben's genius, and in JP in the early days, his manager. It was their genius to kind of switch genres all the time and be able to kind of go from one thing to another, because now you can really do whatever you want, because you've done everything already. I think being able to play different genres within the set, and like all of us to kind of be able to sell those genres, not be like exclusively rock or exclusively reggae or exclusively blues. Is that, we listen to all of those things. And, me personally growing up, and being completely enamored by a group like Fishbone, who plays everything from punk to gospel and everything in between. It seems normal to be able to do that, to go from rock to reggae to folk to blues, to funk. It's kind of something that was normal, growing up in Los Angeles in the late 80s and the early 90s. Bands were pretty eclectic, especially around Los Angeles.
Good point.
It wasn't something that, it wasn't so narrow of a street, music.
Right. And it's definitely worked to Ben, and an entire band's favor, obviously, to be able to, cast a wider net as far as bands that they can support and the types of festivals they can play.
Absolutely.
And clearly that's helped with the overall popularity and the longevity as well. And then Ben collaborating with Charlie Musselwhite or other legends of roots-oriented music. So another fan question was, you've played Japan, correct?
Yes.
Talk about the Japanese audience.
Oh man, it's devoted. Sometimes when you're playing, you don't know if people are really paying attention, or feeling what you're doing. I've never felt that way in Japan. When I've played in Japan, I don't know, maybe 20 times I've been there. 20 separate occasions, like a lot, and I've never had a show in Japan where the audience hasn't given whoever I'm playing with 100% of the time.
Yeah.
We were just talking about this the other day. We played a show in Hiroshima, and we've only played there once in Hiroshima, but we went around the day before and went to the museum and stuff. And it's really, it's obviously a heavy place, historically. So, we played in a small club, and it was the only time where our crowd in Japan was completely ruckus. It was like crazy, and they were like screaming but they were so into it. And, I just remember, tears, just seeing this devotion, from fans. It was like, man,
yeah.
What did I do to get here? Because this is, what it's all about,
I can imagine. Yeah. Name another couple favorite cities of yours to perform in around the world. I'm sure you have many, but
there are a lot. The last tour that we did was last year in February, right before things got hot, and that was in New Zealand. New Zealand, New Zealand's got to be one of my favorite places for a number of different reasons. But you just I feel a connection there. Of course, anywhere that we get to go, if we have that connection, then it's going to feel. If you're really honest with yourself and really trying to live in the present, then any show that you do is going to be one of your favorites, barring some sort of,
right. Of course.
Mishap that,
yeah. But could be beyond your control. Right. Yeah. Talk about Gogo Bordello and the experience of working with that band.
Man, those guys are my family right there. I talk to Eugene, the singer. I talk to him, once a month probably. Maybe sometimes more. And I actually still do some work with them. I still do some recording with them and stuff. And man, working with them was like, in the beginning, when I first started touring with them, I had the analogy of, it was like Navy SEAL buds training for touring.
Wow.
It was intense. We're talking 6 shows in a row, travel day, 5 shows in a row, travel day. You know what I mean? They were the hardest working band that I've ever worked with.
Wow.
Hands down. And, we would rehearse every day on stage, and we would bring it every single night. And that is a band that if you haven't seen them, you need to go see them.
Yeah. I saw you perform with them at least once, and I don't know if I ever saw you wail as hard.
Man, it's completely, I can't explain it. It's a band where the band and the audience is one entity. You can't really tell where.
Yeah, it's a spectacle.
One ends and one begins. It is completely organized chaos almost.
It's a great way to put it. Right?
Yeah.
Junior, next time they're in town, we'll go see them.
So they're well established.
And if Oliver's off tour, we'll all see them together.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. No, they're still out there. Yeah.
No.
Let's talk about Ocean 11.
Yeah.
By far one of my all-time, much like Junior, one of my all-time favorite ska bands, ska scene bands. Obviously, I know, as we talked about, definitely on the rocksteady tip. And Junior asked you about the reunion, of which we heard your answer there. But what about reissuing? Obviously, the good, the bad, the ugly, right, is so hard to find. I have a copy that every time I look for it, I think I lost it, then I find it. But a lot of fans really are missing out by not being able to listen to it. Obviously, it's not available on streaming or anything like that. But what are your thoughts on that?
There's some thoughts on that, and I'm
I don't mean to put you on the spot.
Well, here's the funny thing about that. I don't even have a copy of that record.
Wow.
Yeah, or CD.
CD, correct. CD, yeah.
CD. I mean, I have the MP3s, obviously, but I don't have, I don't have a copy myself. You know, the thing about that is, and I don't really want to get too much in it for, I don't know if it's copyright stuff, but like, you know, we kind of went guerrilla style with putting that thing out. And
I get it. Yeah.
I don't think it really could be, you know, issued without a lot of headaches.
Yeah.
You know?
No, that's a fair point. And I guess it just makes it that much more important, the material that you have recorded.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, to put that out so fans could previous fans and new fans, right?
I will say this, there will be something that comes out by us at some point. That is written by us and will have no
that's
yeah.
We'll hold you to that. Absolutely. Yeah. So Los Angeles has some amazing drummers that do a lot on the ska side of things. And I'm gonna name a few. I'm gonna miss some of them. So forgive me for anyone I've missed. Just by the first names, Oliver and Junior, you'll both know what I'm talking about. Willie, Greg, Ben, Corey, Blake, Gil, Nina, Alex, Joe, Fish. You go on and on. What's in the water here in the Los Angeles area to have given birth to so many incredible drummers that really know and can deliver, right, the authentic but also, you know, more diverse Jamaican sounds. And I didn't even touch on so many of the amazing, more reggae oriented drummers. But
no, of course, you know, there's no shortage of talent, you know, and maybe that's what it is. Maybe the fact that there is a lot of talent, you know, around Los Angeles being like an entertainment capital.
Yeah.
You know, you got to think about the number of, you know, when I could say when I was playing, I would notice there was a lot of other musicians in the room, you know, and I would go see other musicians play.
Yes.
So I think that there was a healthy dose of not sucking in front of other musicians, you know, and like, and you know, it was, you know, the grading curve was high, you know.
Sure.
How am I going to go out there with a Willie or a Greg out there?
Sure.
You know what I mean? Who are two of my favorites, period.
Yeah.
Fish, you know what I mean? So if they're out there and they're in the same pool, you know what I'm saying? Then I got to make sure that when I go out there that I'm at least, you know, at least I'm in the shallow end, you know, of the same pool.
Right. Of course. Yeah.
Work my way up to the deep.
Is that the thing with drummer? You know, Nib said the same thing. Whenever Dan is on he's always in tip-top form. But he just, every night he had to do one thing is bring his A game to Scatterlight show because Dan is up there and he's trying to reach Dan and you can't reach him.
Yeah.
There was never a break.
Yeah.
Scatterlight's never a break because Dan is up there and you're trying to catch Dan, which is what made him so good.
Yeah.
You know,
well, and touching and keeping on the Scatterlights real quick too. I mean, Lloyd Knibb and the fact that the Scatterlights came through Los Angeles so much, especially in the 90s, right?
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of you amazing drummers got to see, you know, arguably the creator of the music live and to study. And I know, you know, Ben got some lessons from. Yeah, Ben from since C-Spot got some lessons, but I mean, yeah, I could only imagine how helpful that must have been as well.
Oh, extremely helpful. I mean, you know, I got a pair of Lloyd's sticks that he used at the Knitting Factory, shows, and he signed them and gave them to me, and they're like right above my, you know, studio monitor. You know, they're just right there for me to see when I'm working all the time. Just on display on the wall.
I love that.
Yes,
it reminds me, you know.
Yeah, That's a
originator of ska in some
wonderful
sense.
line.
His drumming, I think, changed ska.
Yeah.
Oh,
Very
yeah.
true. Very true. Next question actually comes from, and I'll tell you who this came from, Cat Blue Aguirre from Mobtown and 150 Productions. Before I ask the question from her, it was announced a few weeks ago, but she and her business partner Lewis, but also Lewis from Steady Beat, are working on a documentary, and they're raising some funds right now. Any thoughts on the documentary that is in the works, so to speak? But you did a number of shows. Ocean 11 worked, a lot with Lewis and Steady Beat Productions throughout the 90s. But touch on what it means to you, for you and for Ocean 11 to be part of the documentary and to be part of the legacy of that scene and working with Steady Beat.
Well, it's extremely important because it's a time period that if you weren't there, you might not hear about. You might hear about the bands, but the documentary, without going too much into it, because it's coming at from a lot of different angles, but it's really coming at the viewer, telling them about what the scene was like, and the scene, it was a really kind of big family, and you got excited to go out and to see all of your friends in the scene, and for all of the problems that were involved with the scene, which of course I was part of. It was still a really important time in my life and a lot of people's lives, and I think that it's important that it's documented, because it's at a weird time too, because it's pre-cell phone and pre any kind of recording capability, like on an easy scale, you know what I mean?
Right.
So there's not a lot of stuff that exists from that period, unless you got a bunch of VHS tapes sitting around,
right?
Which some people do, but or photographs, and so it's like I'm going through photographs right now trying to find some, and everybody that's involved with this thing, and and videos and stuff, but they're hard to come by. So it's something that's important that it's documented before that stuff disappeared.
No, that very, very well said. So Kat's question is, she'd love for you to talk about the new business venture with your wife Rebecca, if you can touch on that.
A new business venture with my wife,
Little Lake Studio.
Little Lake Studios, yeah. So being both professional musicians, and anybody who is a musician or even entertainer knows that you have to get a few different things going. You got to get a few different hustles going, because it's really hard these days to make money as a musician, because streaming has taken away one of our revenue streams. I don't get paid for the music that I record. I get paid to record it, but we don't really make royalties anymore, which was what kind of kept the art alive.
Right, sure.
So it's kind of, it's forced a lot of us to actually evolve. And I think that's a positive thing. So, we're starting, she's got her teaching studio under that umbrella, we have a recording studio here that's more of a private studio, but we're trying to start a production company, a scoring, company, and then also an event band company as well, all under the same umbrella. So
that's great.
You have to get these things all up and running, and then if you get a little bit of money coming from a lot of different places, then it adds up.
It adds up.
You're able to support yourself, but that's the new world, for entertainers, musicians. You have to do 20 different things in order to make it,
Yeah. Well, congratulations and all the best on that. Final fan question is as a relatively new father, what's the best advice that you've been given on how to balance life on the road and life at home?
Ooh,
Or maybe any advice relative to to being a parent or a working parent who's gone often.
Well, here's the thing: it's that he was born in November last year. I'd been away from him for 1 weekend,
right?
And it was bonkers. I was laying in bed in a hotel just staring at pictures of him.
Yeah.
I asked Ben and the other fathers, that are touring with us, that are, guys that have toured, the newer members in our band are also veteran musicians that have toured with other bands, and done this. And they're just like, I was like, how do you do this? Because I'm gone for a day, and I'm losing it.
Yeah.
And, you got to do it. It's what you do. And you just got to figure out a way to get right with it. And you got to be able to be dad when it's time to be dad. And then when it's time to go to work, you got to go to work. And,
right.
As far as being home, with 2 professional musicians, it's a lot of back and forth.
Sure.
My wife obviously does a lot of the heavy lifting, because he likes her more than me. For now, anyways, she's mom. And,
sure.
But, I try to do as much as I can to make her life easier and to get, if he's willing to hang with me for a while, then I make sure to take him and to give her that time.
Yeah, that's important.
She has a career and it can't stop because, we have a child.
Sure.
So that's been the biggest thing, is just, trying to be of service to my wife is what's helping me, because when I need to do something, then she's there for me.
Yeah. No, it's important.
She's there to take him, and there's no animosity.
Yeah. To reciprocate and support each other is super important. Yeah. Well, as we come to a close here, Oliver, anything that we did not touch on that you'd like to talk about or share with the audience?
You guys touched on everything. You know what I mean? It's great to talk about this music, and I don't get to play a lot of it these days. I get to play some reggae, but I don't get to play this music that much, and this is a reminder that I need to get back to that. And there is some newer Ocean 11 stuff floating around out there that will make its way to the public at some point.
Yeah. Well, that's exciting. Can't wait for that. And I know Junior touched on this earlier, but this show right there, this Rico Rodrigo show, Ocean 11 on that bill, one of my favorites. That was quite the show.
I think we played 20 songs.
I think you might have.
I think we played 20 songs. Right?
It was amazing from start to finish.
I actually have that show. I have our set recorded.
I
do.
Well, we might need to talk offline about that.
Yeah,
I'd love to see some of that.
And I'm thinking about producing an album, live album. Yeah, I'm not kidding. I kid you not.
I've loved this and great to
live
see
album at the live album at the end. Yeah,
you gotta do it.
Yes, man.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Well, I think we're just about.
Yes.
Any closing thoughts?
No, I just want to thank you both. Junior, as always, as the incredible host, and Oliver,
thanks,
amazing guest.
Yeah, I just want to remind our viewers that our guest is the acclaimed drummer for LA Ska and rocksteady band Ocean 11, a longtime member of the band Harper and the Innocent Criminals, and of course, a fantastic visual artist. Yes, sir. Oliver, I want to thank you very much for taking time out away from your young son and your wife to speak with us. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm going to remind our wonderful followers to follow us on History of LA Ska on Instagram, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and join our Facebook group. Please follow Junor Francis at Junor Francis on Instagram. This series was produced by my good friend Eric Kohler, Rockery Radio. Please follow Eric at Rockery_radio on Instagram for fresh rock, rhythm, and soul and Jamaican music-inspired playlists. I want to thank each and every one. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Ben. And our wonderful viewers and listeners. Thanks indeed.
Yeah, Oliver, thank you. All the best to you and your family and life on the road. And Junior, thank you.
Yes.
We appreciate all your support out there as well to our viewers and listeners. And we'll see you again soon. Have a great night.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.